The Good Wife. The wedding was soon arranged. Delibis hurried back to his father, the king. "Hariri is a wonderful girl," he said, "the best girl in all Afar." "I'm very happy for you, my son," the king said. "Send camels and cattle for the feast. Take some servants and all my armed men. Go to her house and marry her. Then bring her back to the palace." "Oh no, father," said the prince. "She doesn't know that I'm the king's son. I don't want to tell her yet. I won't take any armed men with me. When I go to her house, I'll take only one servant. She'll think I'm a poor man. If she marries me, I'll know she really loves me." The king smiled. "Very well, my son," he said. "Go, but come back soon. I want to meet my new daughter." It was a long way from the king's house to Nacrusa's village. The prince and his servants started their journey early in the morning, but they walked all day. The sun rose higher and higher in the sky. It became hotter and hotter. "I'm very hot and very, very thirsty," Delibis said. "I must have a drink." "That's all right, sir," the servant said. "Look, we're coming to a waterhole. You'll find some water there." They came to the waterhole, and Delibis looked down into it. The hole was deep. The water was a long way down. "Climb down and fill my water bottle," Delibis said to his servant. "Oh, no, sir, I can't do that," the servant said. "I don't want to fall and break my neck." So Delibis climbed into the waterhole himself. He drank the cool, clean water and filled his bottle. Then he looked up at his servant. "Pull me up," he shouted. But the servant laughed at him. "Pull you up," he said. "Why, you fool, I'm going to be the master now." He picked up a big stone and lifted it above his head. "He's going to throw it down and kill me," thought Delibis. "Wait a minute," he shouted. "Don't kill me. You'll never escape. Someone will soon find my body. They'll tell my father, and he'll send his men to kill you. I've got a better idea." The servant put the stone down. "What do you mean, a better idea?" he said. "We'll change our clothes," said Delibis. "You take my clothes, and I'll take yours. You can be the master, and I'll be the servant." The servant laughed. "That's a stupid idea," he said. "If I pull you out of the waterhole, you'll kill me. I know you will." "I won't kill you, I promise," said the prince. "And I won't tell anyone that you're my servant." The servant picked up the stone again. "I don't believe you," he said. "Get ready to die." "Very well," the prince said. "But don't you want to marry the most beautiful girl in Afar? How will you find her father's house? Only I know the way." The servant thought for a moment. "Do you really promise?" he said. "You won't kill me? You'll be my servant, and I'll be your master?" "Yes," answered Delibis. "You know me. I always keep my promises." "All right," the servant said, and he pulled Delibis out of the waterhole. They changed their clothes. The prince took the servants, and the servant took the prince's. Then they walked on along the road. At last they came to Nacrusa's village. Everything was ready for the wedding. The women were cooking a wonderful feast. Guests were arriving. People were singing and dancing. Hariri couldn't wait to see the face of her dear Delibis. She looked out of her hut. But there was the servant, dressed in Delibis's clothes. "This man isn't my husband," she said. "I've never seen him before." "Don't be a fool," her father said. "Look at his clothes, his dagger, and his shoes. He was wearing them when he came here before." "But my husband is a clever man," said Hariri. "This man looks like a fool. Let me ask him some questions." "Oh, very well," Nacrusa said. "But be quick, the guests are waiting, the wedding must begin." So Hariri came out of her hut and spoke to the servant. "Tell me," she said, "what is the heaviest thing a man can carry?" The servant frowned. "The heaviest thing?" he said. Let me think. A camel's heavy. No, a fallen tree is heavy. Ah, I know, a grinding stone. Yes, a grinding stone is the heaviest thing." Hariri looked behind the servant. "Who is that man standing under the tree?" She thought. "Here's my next Sorry, I'll read that again. Hariri looked behind the servant. Who is that man standing under the tree? She wondered. Here's my next question, she said. What is the sweetest food in the world? The sweetest food, the servant said. The sweetest food? Yes, I know the answer. The sweetest food is honey. Hariri was watching the man under the tree. He was coming towards her now. I have one more question, she said to the servant. What is the most beautiful smell in the world? The servant shook his head. What a stupid question, he said. Flowers have the sweetest smell. Everyone knows that. Delibes was standing behind his servant now. He smiled at Hariri. This man says he's my husband, said Hariri, but he's a fool. His answers are stupid. Nakrusa was very angry. Daughter, he said, what are you saying? Look, the wedding guests are here. The feast is ready. Take this man. He is your husband. Please, father, Hariri said, I can't marry a fool. Let me talk to his servant. She looked at Delibes. Did you hear my questions? She asked him. Yes, said Delibes, and here are my answers. Your first question was, what is the heaviest thing a man can carry? My answer is a promise. A promise is a very, very heavy thing. For me just now, it's the heaviest thing in the world. Next, you asked, what is the sweetest food? I know the answer to that question. I was alone once in the desert. I had no food. I nearly died of hunger. Then I met a girl. She gave me a piece of dry bread. It was the sweetest food in the world because I was so hungry. Your third question was this. What is the most beautiful smell? I can answer that one too. It is the smell of the skin on the neck of your baby son. I don't have a son yet, but one day, God willing, he will give me a wife, and one day, God willing, he will give me a son. Hariri laughed and clapped her hands. Did you hear that, father? She said. This man is my husband. But he's only a servant, Nakrusa said. I'm tired of all this nonsense, Hariri. I'm your father. You must obey me. Marry the master, not the servant. Hariri went and stood by Delibes. Master or servant, this is the man I will marry, she said. The servant was frightened when he heard this. He fell down on his knees. Oh, please, please forgive me, he said to Delibes. I was a fool. Don't tell the king, your father. The king? Your father is the king? Nakrusa said to Delibes. My dear boy, this is wonderful. Hariri, my girl, you are right, of course. This is the right man for you. I always knew you were a clever girl. You're going to marry a prince. Where are the singers? Is the food ready? Let the marriage begin. The wedding was a happy one. Everyone ate and sang and danced. Only Delibes' servant wasn't happy. He went out of Nakrusa's compound and ran away. They never saw him again. The next day, Delibes and Hariri began the journey back to the king's house. Everyone there was very happy to see them. The king liked his daughter-in-law at once. My son, you have chosen well, he said to Delibes. Now I know that one day you will be a wise and happy ruler. After a year, Hariri had a son. Delibes was very happy. He took his son in his arms. He smelt the skin on the baby's neck. It was the sweetest smell in the world to him. Hariri smiled at him. I have given you a son, she said. Now I want you to give me a promise. Yes, of course, said Delibes. What is it? I'm always frightened when you go out at night, Hariri said. There are bad men in the town, and the wadi is the most dangerous place. Please don't go to the wadi in the evening, when the people and the animals have returned to the town. Promise me. I promise, said Delibes. And so Delibes and Hariri lived happily for many years. They had 7 sons and 7 daughters. The old king died, and Delibes became king. He was a wise and good ruler. The years passed. One day, when Delibes and Hariri were old, a servant came to Delibes. The camels have returned from the wadi, he said, but one of them is lost. Delibes forgot his promise to Hariri. "I'll go myself and look for it," he said. It was dark outside. There was only a half moon in the sky. Everything was quiet. There was nobody at the wadi now. Everyone was at home in their own houses. Suddenly, 4 men jumped out from behind a tree. "Give us your money," shouted one. "Give us your clothes," shouted another. The third man came close to Delibes and looked at his face. "Let him go," he said to the others. "It is the king." "What?" the fourth man said. "Yes, quick, let him go." But the first 2 robbers laughed. "Let him go," they said. "Are you crazy? He'll send his soldiers after us. They'll catch us and kill us. No, we must kill him now." They began to argue with each other. "Kill him," the first 2 robbers said. "Let him go," said the others. The first 2 robbers were the strongest. "We must kill you," they said to the king. "We want to save our own lives." "Give me one last wish before I die," the king said. "Very well," said the robbers. "What is it?" "Go to my house," Delibes asked them. "Tell my wife that you saw me near the wadi. Say to her, 'There's a black cow in my herd of cattle. Its horns are too long. It will put out the eyes of the other cows. Take it out of the herd.'" "Is that all?" asked the third robber. "No," answered the king. "Tell her this. There's a black mat on the roof of my house. Take it away. Put a white mat there in its place." "Is there anything else?" said the fourth robber. "Yes," Delibes answered. "I have 4 camels. Tell my wife to keep 2 of them, but tell her to let 2 of them go." "Have you finished now?" the first robber said. "Yes," said Delibes. "Then you must die," the first robber said. And so the robbers killed Delibes. They took his body and threw it under a tree. "Come on," the first 2 robbers said. "We must run away." "No," said the third and fourth robbers. "We must take the king's message to his wife. We promised." "Are you crazy?" the first robber said. "She'll know that we killed him. Her sons will kill us." "But she doesn't know that he's dead," the third robber said. "Nobody knows that he's dead." So the 4 robbers went to Delibes' house. They asked to see the queen. She was talking with her 7 sons. They were all carrying spears. The first robber walked boldly up to the queen. "I have a message for you," he said, "from your husband, the king." "Where did you meet him?" Hariri asked. "At the wadi," the robber answered. The queen put her hand over her mouth. Her eyes opened wide, and she looked at the robbers. Her sons moved towards her. "Is my husband well?" she asked. "He's fine," laughed the robber. "We left him under a tree. He'll be home soon." "And what was his message?" Hariri asked. The first robber told her the words of the king. When he finished, Hariri said to her sons, "Catch these men." "Why?" her eldest son asked. "They have only brought some messages from our father." The robbers were already running out of the compound. "Quick, quick, don't let them escape," shouted Hariri. Her 7 sons ran after the robbers and caught them. They brought them back to the queen. She was crying. "What's the matter, mother?" her eldest son asked. "Didn't you understand your father's message?" said Hariri. "Listen, this is what it means. Take the black cow out of the herd of cattle," he said. "It will put out the eyes of the other cows. This means that your father doesn't want the crows to eat his eyes. He wants us to bury his body." "You mean our father's dead?" her sons asked. "Yes," said Hariri. "This is his second message. Take away the black mat on the roof. Put a white one there. He's dead, and he wants me to put white clothes on for him." "It was these men who killed my father," shouted one of the sons, and all of them lifted their spears. "Wait," said Hariri. There was one more message. "Keep 2 of my camels," your father said, "but let 2 of them go." This means that 2 of these men killed him, but 2 tried to save his life. The robbers fell down on the ground. "You know everything," the first robber said. "You're right. It was my friend and I who killed the king. These 2 men tried to save him." "Kill the murderers," shouted the brothers, and they killed the first 2 robbers with their spears and daggers. Then the third and fourth robbers took Hariri and her sons to the wadi. They found the body of Delibis and brought him home. Hariri put on white clothes, and her sons buried their father. He was a great king, all the people said. Why? Because he was married to a good and